Hey guys, I'm Mr. Solar Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the series Tekken Bloodline. If you end up enjoying this full series review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head over to my petition to save and help smaller YouTubers. Second and third to my Patreon and PayPal to help support me and my channel directly. And fourth to my Discord server, where you can help and find other YouTubers and communicate that way. Shilling will be reminded at the end of the review, and with all that get out of the way, let us get into Tekken Bloodline. Now, I found this coming across doing some just googling on the Tekken. I came across the first few Tekken movies, and then I found out that apparently there's a new one with, well, this is a series called, well, Tekken Bloodline. We follow, in this one, Jin through his younger years with his mother Jun, all the way up to being trained by Heihachi Mishima and the more modern day King of Iron Fist tournament. It's a relatively short season of only 6 episodes, which I guess is sometimes very typical for seasons for whatever reason. I don't know why, but here we are again with another short one. So, with that out of the way, let's get into the general synopsis that I already kind of covered. So, as already kind of established, in the beginning, we see that Jin is training with his mother, Jun Kazama. They're in the forest, and she's teaching him all these life lessons about not to use anger in the wrong way, and to defend oneself in a proper fight, and all that stuff. We get a old school Tekken character in the form of Ogre makes his return in this. I don't think he's been in the franchise since. I don't think he's been in there since like Tekken 2 or 3. I want to say. Like I don't remember Ogre in 4, 5, and 6 or 7 for that matter. So yeah, definitely a callback if anything else. But you can tell that this is also a more relatively new story with newer roster characters such as Leroy, which is his premiere was in Tekken 7, for example. So, it seems like a blend between the old and the new. The roster of characters here is relatively small. We have Hawang, however you pronounce his name, Ling Xiaoyu, Jin Kazama, Heihachi Mishima. We have King, or the son of King, which is also just King. We have Nina Williams, and I think like a few other individuals, like Paul, as well, here. And as we progress, we see that the ogre takes out Jin's mother. And this is where he gets told to train under, or go under Heihachi's roof. He does so. He tells Heihachi everything, and Heihachi says, alright, I'll teach you to kill this ogre, but you gotta do it my way. And he proceeds to train him in a completely different way from what he was being taught by his mother. To show no mercy, to just, be completely brutalized. And we see essentially the transformation of a young fighter into the Jin we more so recognize with the iconic costume with the gloves and the fire pants included. They even give that its own lore with, and this is in the series, so this is what we give our context to. Since she was burned in the fire, he wanted to get the fire pants to sort of a remembrance of that moment, to keep it instilled within him. And thus he eventually got there by episode 3 or 4, I want to say, out of 6. And the rest of the arc is essentially the tournament, or the rest of the tournament. The final 3 episodes are essentially the tournament. And for what it's worth, I think it's a pretty shorthand for a Tekken fan. The animations swell. We get to see some familiar styles, and the animation's obviously a little bit different here. but it's still very recognizable to the characters we do see here, both old and new. And yeah, that is about it for the little synopsis. As for what I would give it, I do think that Tekken can do a little bit more than this, than the 6-episode format, honestly. I mean, its roster is quite impressive at this point. By the point of Tekken 7, we have like over, I don't know, 20 characters you can sort of sort through. And I think that really just makes the tournament arc of, a given show all the more better if you can follow all of these different characters and their different little stories, and you almost start rooting for more than one of them almost, and it almost becomes harder to choose like who you want to win, rather than this story is focused on the Mishima bloodline, which unfortunately, while it is almost simultaneously like the main thing, it does unfortunately as a consequence sideline the other characters to whatever degree that's going to cost. And in some instances, such as this, I do feel like it's a little bit more of a consequence here, where we get a little bit sidelined for all these other characters. We hear little bits and pieces about their character, about like, well, they all have their different reasons for fighting, and they were just told that explicitly instead of seeing the reasons why they all fight, which is always a little bit of a letdown. Again, we have, you could have given Tekken a little bit more time. You could have, really invested some more time in this series instead of doing the typical short-handed 6-episode thing. You could have brought in more fighters. You could have shown more backgrounds. And again, I think that makes the whole who wins the fighting tournament more complex. It makes you want to root for more than one just character. Or, that, essentially. And it does seem as if this will particularly fall under Jin's conquest to, deal with Ogre. And, you go through the typical tournament arc. His last opponent is King, which was a little bit of a surprise out of all the characters, out of the short roster that was picked. I'm a little surprised that they left King to get so far in the tournament. I don't know. I don't normally consider him like a fan favorite or anything. Not that I'm saying he's like the bottom of any given list. I would probably, if I were to estimate, because I actually don't know this for sure off the top of my head, I'd probably say he's somewhere in the middle area of the roster, of like the full roster right now. At least that's what I would feel about him personally anyway. So yeah, it was pretty cool to see King get that far in the tournament out of all the examples given. And again, we just get told why he's fighting, and we get a little cool moment at the end where Jin just wins and he says you can have the money, because, his priorities are much more focused on his personal arc between Ogre and now Heihachi himself, because he learns the ultimate truth that apparently Heihachi is the one that summoned Ogre here originally, and probably several times over, taking on some other fighters apparently in the background. Some more iconic names and more older characters from like some of the really early Tekken games, like Tekken 2 and 1. I think most of them were in Tekken 2, if anything, if not 1. But yeah. So, if I were to give an overall score, I probably would say it's probably either like I'd probably stick with a 6 out of 10, as I do feel like, Jin, since Jin is technically the focus of this, he does get a decent chunk dedicated to him at least. And it is a little bit interesting to get that whole dynamic between Jun and Heihachi. That is his arc, to choose which one he's gonna side with here. And the more he learns about Heihachi, the more and more he leans towards Jun within that short span of time. And obviously throughout the multiple games, it's more of a long arc and has, gone through more severe ups and downs than this, obviously. But again, I do say that this is more of a shorthand. Like, you want to potentially get interested in Tekken? Maybe it's a short series. Might as well check it out if you haven't even heard of Tekken before. But there's very likely a chance you probably would have. If you're a fighting game fan in general, you probably know what Tekken already is. Yeah, and in regards to, again, what would have made it better than a 6 is the given obvious. Give the other characters who are already in the roster a little bit more to chew on, a little bit more time to find out what their deals are. We get a little bit from Leroy, for example, like he's like the first one out, and we learn like apparently he actually killed his family. Yeah, that would have been brutal to see that, but I do think that would have helped us root for Leroy even more if we had seen it. For whatever that is, for whatever additional content that might have given us, even if it's really rough to watch. And we don't know Hao Wang's, reason for fighting, except that he wants simple revenge. Ling Xiaoyu, we see her kind of do her gimmick where she kind of wants the amusement park, which is admittedly, kind of a play off of one of the earlier endings for Ling Xiaoyu. I think that was in Tekken 3, I want to say, where they gave her that ending specifically, and where like every other Tekken character gets their own little ending thing. So yeah, that's where I would say the improvements could have easily been made. So yeah, relatively short series, so relatively short review. There you go. So if you ended up enjoying my review of Tekken Bloodline, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. I want to head you over to my petition, second, third to my Patreon and PayPal, and fourth to my Discord server. Any and all donations to my Patreon and PayPal to me are greatly appreciated and help support me and the channel directly. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.